Welcome back into Afternoons with Staffy SENZ, and this is going to be a day I'm going to remember and one I've looked forward to for a long, long time. We are joined on the show now by the inimitable Sir Nick Faldo joins us. Sir Nick, what a pleasure.
I haven't been called that before. Thank you. Appreciate it.
When we started the station 3 years ago, Sir Nick, we were asked to write a list of our 6 big names we would like to have on the show, and I wrote down 6 names. I get to tick off the second of those 6 names.
Oh, my gosh.
Yes, and the first one was actually a colleague of yours and great Kiwi Frank Nobilo. So I've got golf.
Yes. Well, Frank's coming round for dinner tonight. How about that? So my son is cooking, so he doesn't know that yet. So I always catch up with Frank as much as I can.
Now you're one of the most storied golfers in the world. My first question might be a little bit weird, Sir Nick, but I think it says a lot about you that you've said yes to come and talk to a New Zealand radio station that you've never heard of. You don't know me. What does that say about you and where you are in life at the moment to say yes to a little me?
Because I'm an adventurous and I couldn't care less. No, it's obviously. Hey, I'm good friends with Frank, and New Zealand. Gosh, I went there moons and moons ago. 78 or something. I think was one of my first times as a young pro. Did a bit of fishing. Didn't understand bunny trout fishing. It was right in front of me. And then I got into trout fishing in the mid-80s and then came back down to Queenstown, mid-90s, I think. Must have come, to fish. And Greg Turner, isn't it? Yeah, Greg. I know Greg's around. And then came back. Obviously, we had the World Cup, didn't we, in Auckland in, what was that, 98?
Yeah. And the company I work with actually sponsored the hole-in-one golf and hole-in-one hole. And I was up there for the whole tournament. And, I'd played golf from sort of early teens. And I tried to speak to all of the big names. I think John Daly was there, you and David Carter from England, who ended up winning it. And I said to you, "G'day, Nick. Thanks for coming to New Zealand." And you were one of the only pros that turned around and said, "I love it here." And Nick Faldo spoke to me.
Yeah, but it's a bigger version of England's rolling hills, isn't it? And so, and I wish I'd known more. Being there, I'm now a real trout fisherman. I love it, and I've got to come. I've got friends who go down and spend the whole season to fish down in New Zealand. So I hope I get back to come and do some fishing there one day, because I love my trout fishing now. I'm a better trout fisherman than golfer. Oh my God. At least my casting's getting better and my golf's not. So, so I'd love to come down and fish, properly one day.
One of the remarkable things, you were the world number one for a couple of years, and a very good golfer for a lot longer than that. And that was when I was, how you become addicted to golf as a club golfer, and I worked really hard. And for me, you stood out quite differently in your determination, your focus, your ability. You seemed to play in a bit of a cube around you, and you didn't let outside influence. And it was like you got offside with a few people, but I watched you and saw an incredibly focused, disciplined, analytical golfer. Where did that come from?
I guess that was, that's self-taught in a way, not intentional. I'm an only child. I went to the my story. I watched golf at 14. I watched the Masters at 14. Made a decision at 15. I want to be a pro golfer. 16, I left school. I went to the practice ground. I lived on the practice ground for a couple of years, literally, and loved it and entertained myself. So I think it came from that kind of solitude, and I played lots of rounds at Welling Garden. I practiced all morning. I play all afternoon on my own. So I developed. It's all self-taught, really, isn't it? I didn't And I believe that was the best way for me to operate, was kind of head down, blinkers on, and stay as focused as long as possible. You know, people, psychologists would say, oh, you've got to jump in and out of, shots and then switch up. And no, I could stay in golf mode. I thought that worked for me for the whole tournament sort of thing. Get transfixed by it and concentrate and do the best you can each shot and stay in that intensity. Hey, and some obviously for golf, fantastic, and then for some, and then whatever personality wise or whatever, people would criticize that or judge you or who you really are and that sort of thing. But for me, that was what I believed was the best way for me to perform. It was kind of a lot, and again, I've talked about this a lot. I came up, coming our golf era, very different, through this late 70s, 80s. You had to look after yourself. We didn't quite have the, I was competing against Seve and Greg and Pricey and whoever would, Langer was big in Europe at that time, and Woodsy and all that. Who else? Lazabal. So you had to look after yourself because you had to be we had to be very competitive. Prize money was nothing like what it is now. You had to play really hard. You finished third in a tournament. You got 1,500 whatever pounds or bucks. Seriously, and so you kept thinking, well, if I keep doing that, I'm doing all right. 10 grand, 20 grand was big in those times. Really well. And then you get, I won 5 tournaments for £100,000 in 1983. 5 tournaments. That was the first one in Europe. And then I was then the first one in Europe to win $1 million in 92. And guess what? I won 6 times for that. Jeez. Now these guys are just got to drive around the parking lot twice and they get $1 million. I mean, it's ridiculous, isn't it? So, complete different ball game. So I've always said, to change, you probably heard to change your life, to change your lifestyle, you had to win. That's the only way you could really make a difference. And so you had to be defensive. And again, I was thought you kept your cards close to your chest, and you didn't want to give away who you really were. So I think I'm the product of that era in a way, where guys are very different now. It's a different world. My goodness, you got a camera in your face all day long. And so who knows whether I would have been a different person, different character playing now. But, I'm back at that time was a very different game, different equipment completely. So, but hey, I guess you wouldn't trade it.
2 points I wanted to make about you playing back then. Like the golfers of those times, you had to graft so much harder. And I mean, you'd play holes in the 80s, drive a 4-iron, the exact same hole as drive a 9-iron. You had to have more equipment in your arsenal.
Well, we were the other end of the bag. We were 1, 2, 3s and 4-irons in the bag. You had that. You only had a driver 3 when you started with a 1-iron. You went in there, only had 2 wedges. A completely different bag to now. It's 4 wedges now. And some guys are starting with 5-iron. At the other end. And with equipment, the ball, the shaft, people don't appreciate. A wooden head with a steel shaft, the weight of it, and everybody said, "Oh, we'll hit it harder." Well, it's funny. I'm digging up my old clubs up in my barn, and I got a net, and I hit my old T-Zoid driver, the old metal head. It's got 6 degrees aloft on a metal head that's the size of that on it, with a steel X100 shaft, and you had to wait for it. It was like, I'll start down. It was like, well, I'm not ready yet. The shaft would come down. Then it had torque to it. Remember when they first brought graphite out, you could twist it 5 degrees. So we had to wait for the golf ball. Sorry, for the golf club. We had to wait. You couldn't just muscle it because the thing was still out there. So you had to. It's all about tempo and timing in my era, and that's what we worked on. Golf ball was marginally harder than a bar of soap. I mean, so you squashed the golf ball, and it was a completely different game. Yeah, and irons were, 3-iron went 200. You were pretty impressive. You can get a 3-iron over 200. So very different, very different. And as you said, anything over 460 on a, like when you playing Wentworth at 460, yeah, that was driving 2s and 3-irons, which was fantastic. So if you were good, and I obviously practiced, and I hit millions of 1, 2s and 3-irons to try and be, so it was no problem. So if it's a 2-iron into a par 4, fine. You weren't worried about it. You hit it, got on with it. As we know, and now the equipment is completely different. You actually had to drive 50 yards further. So you hit it twice. That's 100 yards. That's why the game is, it's a shame because there should be an asterisk that some of the great rounds played. Like when Elazabeth shot 62 at Firestone moons ago, we were hitting exactly that, drive 2s and 3-irons into hole. So now they would be over the hill at 9. We were hitting 2-iron into 9. Now they hit it down there 370 yards, and they've got gap wedges. And so it is very different, very, very different. Yeah.
In life and in sport, there's always evolution, but I think in sport, personally, I think golf's evolved too far in a way.
Yeah. No, I agree. We've taken away. There was a real genuine. The better ball strikers were the better player. Were the best players, and then now, as that's the other amazing thing. Obviously, through the science of computer designed golf clubs, golf heads, the sweet spot is genuinely the size of a quarter now, and we were literally the size of a pea. And so the mishit only changes your shot wave. You miss it. You remember the days when you got your fingers, didn't there? If you miss it an iron on a bit of a cold. Now you can be. I've done it. I've got TrackMan. You can hit it 11, 12 millimeters off the center, and you go, yeah, that was okay, kind of. And then you don't realize, wow, that's that far off, and it's only made 3 yards difference. That is the crazy thing about the game. So, there's possibly there's more good players because, there's less separation. That's probably better. There's less separation. As I said, if you were a great ball striker, there was only a dozen of us that were really great, and that's why we won. Yeah.
The other thing about you was sort of pre-you, there were the wonderful golfers, the Tom Watsons and Jack Nicklaus and Arnold Palmer and all of that, Sam Snead, but you were the first one that we as the golfing public sort of had a relationship with. Your caddy, Fanny, became the first famous caddy, the first famous caddy. I've always wanted to know how that happened.
No, very easy. I was the end of the 9th. Where are we? Into the 80s. So, I had a British caddy. Your relationship with caddy, very important. It was just going off a little bit. And Fanny was out there on tour. She came out on tour with her friend in the mid 80s, and I think she caddied for me, odd practice round and that sort of thing. She was caddying for another player at the end of. We were at Velvo Masters down in Valderrama. He was being a real arse to her, and I thought, well, if I ever change, I'll give this girl a chance to give her a break. And we were down in Australia, and it's funny. We went to, and I made that decision. And we were in Melbourne. We went to an Annie Lennox concert. We were walking back across we were staying at the Hilton, I guess, or whatever it is. And then, and I said, I want to buy you dinner, girl. So I bought a spaghetti bolognese. And I said, right, I want you to work for me next year. And she's like, well, and she said, well, I don't know. And of course, she's all excited. And I said, well, I'll see you tomorrow. And then the next day I gave her I said, well, this is the schedule. See you in Florida. We start in Florida and practicing. Funny enough, and that was it. She came to Florida and we started practicing with Ledbetter. And actually our first event, we actually flew all the way to Australia for a skins game. We did that skins up on the Gold Coast, I think, with Greg and Jumbo. And that was it. We came to America, and so Fanny's here. I've just been spent the whole afternoon with her here at Augusta because we've been looking at the solar eclipse here, and so, and reminiscing and telling stories. And so here's the funny one. So Fanny, obviously, when we won in 1990, so she's brand new. So we started in January, and here we are in April. So we've only done a few tournaments together, and she's come to Augusta for the first time. She's a real rookie caddy, rookie Augusta. And then I learned, like 25 years later, that she hadn't even seen Augusta on TV. So it was like, you were joking. So, but actually, I'll tell you the story. It was actually very good for me that way. I'm coming to defend, and got a new caddy. And back in that day, the caddies had to do everything. The caddies aren't allowed to go and walk the golf course on their own. They can only do their work with their player back then. And so she's got a bag on her back. We had the old pedometer wheel. Remember that yellow wheel? They pushed the wheel as well had to check the yardage. You had to do your own yardage book off all the sprinklers. Then they'd be running up and down, and while she's giving me a yardage and hitting and golf balls. And so it was an honest day's work way back then. And but that was actually very good for me because it kind of made me, I've got to teach her. So I'm saying, right, pay attention to this. I want to go there, don't want to go there. We do this, we don't do that. So it was probably very good for me to get out of trying to defend and start again and keep good visualization. I'm big on that. And so we obviously defended, and I was only the second to Jack then. So that was unbelievably special week, you can imagine.
One name that you dropped in there as well is David Ledbetter. I talked about Fanny became the most famous caddy. David Ledbetter became the most famous golf coach. We knew you all had coaches, but we didn't know who they were. And you took, from me, and correct me if I'm wrong, you took the radical decision. I felt like all the golfers were arm and hand swingers, and you became a body swinger, and you changed the game. Was that a hard decision because you stuck with it with not great results of your expectation?
Yeah,
you stuck with it.
It wasn't. How things like and I made that decision end of '94, and I thought, you know what, it's not good enough. It's not what I want. I'd run close at the Opens, and I didn't quite have this penetration or the consistency and that sort of thing. And then, so I chatted to Ledbetter. We were down in South Africa, sowed some seeds. And then by the time I saw him, it was now May of 85. I'm at Muirfield Village. I've just missed the cut, and I said, right, come on, let's get started. Didn't appreciate that, how hindsight, stupid decision on the timing, because you're May and you're suddenly going working on a new backswing with an old follow through. Well, everything went, mega downhill. I got hammered from the media and all that sort of thing. So, stupid decision on the timing. But I don't know how I start with it. I mean, that was another thing I don't know where I got that self-belief, determination, because things weren't good. And I never sort of said, oh, this is stupid, or I wish I didn't do it. I was like, no, I could get my head kicked in. I do like 5 different practice sessions. I go down to, the range and practice 5 different times in a day. Think of something, go back again, go to the next tournament, play crap, And so it went on and on and on until it finally clicked in spring of '87. So I wasn't even at the Masters in the spring of '87. I went to the B tournament, which was Hattiesburg, and I shot 467. So after we found, something on the downswing, it gave me that fade, and then that was it. Now I was set free. But that was God, I hit an awful lot of balls. I used to hit the big buckets, not the little buckets. I hit the big buckets, got 300 balls, and I used to 1,500 balls a day. By 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I couldn't close my fingers like that. And I used to go for a swim, and like an idiot, I'll be back there hitting it. I better go and do another hour at 6 o'clock. So I did it the old-fashioned way. Really did. pretty amazing.
We're talking to Sir Nick Faldo, three-time Open Championship winner and three-time Masters winner as well. We'll take a very quick break here. We'll come back with Sir Nick. Do not go away. So that's at 22. Right, and then we'll come back. Welcome back in. Sir Nick Faldo kindly holding on for us. Nick, we talked about the swing changes and all that sort of thing. You won the Open in 87, 90, 92. You went back-to-back at the Masters, 89 and 90. You went 4 years between majors. I'm just wondering about that 96 major, because you were winning them, not for fun, but you were winning them reasonably regularly. And for you, I guess 4 years might have been a wee while. You had a lot of top tens. What did that 96 Masters win tell you about yourself?
I was still close. 93, I could have won. I'm sure I was in there. You're doing your best all the time, aren't you? No, and then when obviously 96 is famous for the battle against Greg. Obviously, I'm very fortunate because we're getting close to 30 years on, and I get told if I'm traveling, almost every time in an airport or obviously here, people come like, this guy just came up to me and said, well, I watched you. I'm the reason why I play golf. Pretty amazing. He said, I watched it with my dad. You won the Masters. My dad passed away 3 days after it. So you're really big. And then here you are. And I thought, bloody hell. So, I'm constantly, fortunately for me, it's wonderful. I'm constantly reminded of that event. Everybody watched it. Not everybody watched it. Everybody gets the facts right. Now, some people might say, how many Opens did you win? And did you win when I burnt down? And you're not, and then you go, but everybody comes, oh, you, Greg, 96 Masters. They get all the facts. So, hey, I'm very fortunate, obviously very fortunate. So, but that was a weird week. It's, God, yeah, you live on superstitions. So I arrive and you check in the book. So I think I was playing all right. I must have been playing all right. And you arrive and I check in and I'm number 67 when you get in. So you get 67 number and you get, it's a good number, lovely number now. You see, and I went and got I guess it was a Cadillac then. When I got my car and the key ring number was 111. See how weird we are. So I'm thinking, well, that's good, 111, So that's how weird we get. So, and then the funny thing was I was swinging too fast. It was all too fast from here, and I was actually skying number one and all this sort of thing. So everybody's telling me to slow down. And my daughter, Georgia, was really into the Powerpuff Girls at the time. Remember those?
Yeah.
So I'm pretending I'm a Powerpuff Girl. I'm pretending I'm a Powerpuff Girl. Don't hurt the golf ball. Seriously. I actually was pretending the golf ball was a soap bubble. And I thought, can I hit it and not burst the bubble? Just go, boop. Keep it all nice and soft. No, can't force it. And so who did I get drawn with day one? John Daly. Perfect. What is it? John's grip it, rip it, and kill it. And I'm going, boop, don't want to hurt you. But, I opened with 69 and people think, well, it's, Greg was 63, but I thought that was great. It was a great round. It was like, I can play, because you don't know what you're going to get when you get to Augusta. And off I was running. And then, gosh, and then as that final day transpired, my goal. See, the other great thing about the Masters is obviously we come back every year. And so you've got so much history of what's happened on the back nine. And we all know 3 shots is nothing. If you're leading by 3, you can blow it. If you're 3 back, you could catch somebody. It's happened so many times. And that was my goal. And I said, well, if I get within 3, the 9 to go, anything can happen. Really good. So that was really my goal, to chip away and get within 3. And sure enough, I did.
It's one of my most memorable Masters. And the thing I remember about it, that back 9, was watching it. It wasn't there, but it was almost like there was a spotlight on Greg Norman, and you were just outside the range of that spotlight in the shadow. but I was watching the shadow, and you were just so within yourself and so comfortable in pressure. Would that be accurate?
Yeah. Well, with the golf club we were talking about it. Yeah, people don't appreciate. I mean, my 67 was the lowest round of the weekend. Wow. The whole everybody of the weekend. The greens were as hard as this, right? So you had to do lots of calculations because they put the pin, and so behind the hole, say, where the flag is, or in front is whatever 3 or 4, but behind it, say 6 or 7. Well, just 2 or 3 paces to the right of it, it might be 13 deep. That little bit of green where you needed a bit more room to stop the ball. So it was doing all those little things. I'd land it here, get the ball to finish there, and and I technically missed the 5th green when we were hitting a 2-iron into it, but he landed on the green and went off the left, and that was it. I hit every green, hit it in the right place, popped in the right putts, and pieced it all together. And at the end of the day, I shot 12 under. The next is 7, and the next is 6. So I beat everybody fair and square by quite a long way. So, sure, Greg collapsed on that final day, but at the end of the day, when you look at the record book, it's the race to the 72nd green, isn't it? What's your total? And I was really consistent. That was the key thing to that week. I just kept churning out, really good stuff.
They say when you play golf, whether it's me or you or Tiger or someone who's just started, you always strive for perfection. There's probably never been the perfect round of golf. You've got an amazing recall for your tournaments, victories and all that. When do you feel like you nearly played a perfect round of golf?
Yeah, you do. I think when you get lost and you come in, you've forgotten the scorecard. You actually don't even know what you've shot. I mean, my 64, I was the first one to shoot 130 at the Open. I shot, at Muirfield, 66, 64. I shot 64 on that second day at Muirfield. Again, back in the day when you're hitting 4 irons and 2 irons and, 2, 3s and 4s, you're hitting 3-iron into the 4th, par 3, and even 7 was into the win. That was a 3-iron some days. I'm hitting 4-iron into 15, I think, for something like that. It was long, like I was saying. And that was one of the best rounds because I was like, pick a shot and hit it. Like 4-iron with a bit of a draw, right? I do that. Next 2-iron with a bit of a fade, do that, knock it on the green, knock it in the hole. I mean, it was so that one was really good. Actually, I didn't get up and down on 17. I was on the side of the green and hit a bad pitch shot. Learned from that, made 5. So could have been even one of the, feel like you lost one there, but hey, everything was pretty good. And then and then we talked about the 67. It's not always the lowest round, but as we said, 67 and 96 was perfect because the golf course was that tough, that difficult. So I've done that a few times when you come in and you go, what did I shoot? And you can't even add it up. It's weird. You are so engrossed in shot one shot at a time, that you just get lost, which is a lovely way to play golf, isn't it?
Mm. So 2 Masters week this week. For about 20 years, I always used to take Monday off in New Zealand because that was the final round of the Masters. So I sort of, one of my holidays every year was to watch the final round of the Masters. The current crop, it seems like for a number of years we've been looking for the next Tiger. Like in rugby, we've looked for the next Jonah Lomu, the next Richie McCaw. The next Tiger is going to be bloody hard. We've had names like McIlroy, Spieth, Dustin Johnson, all of that. But I feel like right now we might be getting a look at potentially another dominant, and that's Scotty Scheffler. And I don't love his golf game, but I love his mind. I love how he deals with. What do you think, Scotty Scheffler?
Yeah, say hi to, but you mentioned Richie. Say hi to Richie for me, because I saw him in Japan a couple of years ago, and we played together, had fun. Yeah, I agree. His swing is hilarious, isn't it?
Yes.
I mean, I don't know how this is going to. I filmed him last night on the range, because he's absolutely, he's a nutter. Where is it? Oh, so many pictures today of. Here you go. Scottish. I won't put my voice on. How are we going to show it? Where is it? Here we go. Here's a hook. Oh, we went too soon. Oh, you saw it.
I saw it. Yeah.
So I told him. So I'm saying to him, "All right, hit me a hook. Watch the foot. Just watch the follow through. Watch. There's his hook. Right. So and it's all in his hands. I agree. He's a lovely guy. He's not phased by, and this is the fade. You watch this. Yeah, see if you can spot the difference. You watch this. So I call him Twinkle Toes, which I did. Look, here's his fade. Look at that. Okay.
It falls over.
Yeah. So he's good entertainment. I mean, that's how relaxed he is. But you're right. It's his mind. He's got some great ability to, like, okay, that happened. Good, bad, so what? Couldn't care less, even good or bad, and we move on. Not many people could do that. I mean, that's probably his best. His hands and that approach are his two great skills. And when he's in that kind of mode, because he's like, he's not going to get, if he's in there, he's not going to get twitched up. He's not. I think that's how he wins tournaments. So he's just Mr. Calm, and whatever happens, happens. And if he blows it, so what? He doesn't really blow it. He just something happen. And I got a funny echo. So yeah, he's very talented and a super guy as well.
Hard to pick winners of golf tournaments. I've got a hunch that this year there might be a surprise winner. I never like trying to find someone in year one, because that's very rare. You can turn Augusta for the first time and win. It's happened, but not very often. But that top echelon of guys with all the pressure, I think the live golfers coming back have had another year in the wilderness without meaningful competition. It's going to be even harder for the live guys.
We're on the same wavelength. That's the right word. It's meaningless golf, what they're playing, isn't it? So I agree. It's funny. We're on the funny. We're how many miles apart are we? 12,000 miles. We're on the same wavelength. I agree. I'm thinking it could be a second tier guy that we're not sure. I've been looking at stats. You've got crazy stats where you can go to Eric Cole. He's got some fantastic stats for this week. Even your boy, Ryan Fox, has good stats. He's very good. I did it all last week. He's very good, 100 to 125. Very good putter. Very good. He's like the third best from 10 to 15 feet. Well, so if you play nicely, you've got to be really good 15 feet and in, haven't you? So, the big names always carry a lot of extra media pressure, and the other guys coming under the radar, do their own thing, no fuss, just the odd one little interview, and you can prepare how you want to prepare. Course is great. Course is very green, as you saw. They literally had a bit of rain every blimmin' other day for the last couple of weeks. Even the trees are lush. The foliage is really thick. You won't see people twanging it through the pine trees. That's got to be tougher. How you say, oh, a little gap, I'll go for it. And there's no gaps in the trees now. All the trees are blooming. So the greens look great, quick. Usually everything's very similar in that sense. So yes, it's a tough call early week. You got to see how after the first 2 days how they spread out a bit.
Well, Nick, I see our time is quickly elapsing, so a couple of thank yous, particularly from me, and for allowing people to ride around the world on your coattails, and I mean globally. You couldn't get further away than New Zealand. The journeys you took us on, the Ryder Cups I feel like you were part of the renaissance of the Ryder Cup. And if people don't realise, started at 14, Ryder Cup at 20, beat Jack Nicklaus, beat Tom Watson, shut the front. I mean, that is ridiculous. But the biggest thank you is for joining our audience here in New Zealand and freely giving us some time, reminisce, broadcasting. I didn't even touch on your commentary career. We stayed connected with you for 40 plus years. It's been absolutely brilliant.
I got to tell you, the one funny, when we won the World Cup, we did two things that was very smart. We stayed on the golf course, but the other guy, everybody went into town. So we saved ourselves, 40 minutes in traffic. And that wind was blowing like 30, wasn't 20, well, at least 20 plus every day. And I got on that range and I worked out how to just chip it with a 3-iron, honest. And I thought, that's the only blooming club that had the flight. I just stood there hitting different length shot. And there was a par 3 on the back nine. And because the guys I'm playing with are trying to hit a 6-iron, going like this. And I hit the 3-iron out. And they look at me and I just chipped it. And it worked. It was the only way to play that golf course. It was quite funny. And then I'd wish I won the individual. I think, what's his name? Blow, my brain's gone. Because he's getting older. David Duvall. He picked me, didn't he? He's 63. I was going to win the individual as well. I was on it. Anyway. No, I love it, Dad. As I said, genuinely love it. I hope I can get down there again, fishing rod and golf clubs in the future. I'd look forward to that. That would be, got a couple of mates who might take me down there fishing. That would be really cool.
SENZ. It's Kiwi for sport.